Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 8th October 2023. My name is T.S.V. Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Hardan, 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 Haribol, TRSV, Nectar, NECTAR, Nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on this material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in all my previous videos. Hence, kindly subscribe to this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous, present, and future videos. So let us continue with the topic of discussion for today's video. In fact, today's topic of discussion is only a continuation of yesterday's topic, which is actually the analysis of Psyche of various characters in a particular very intriguing and interesting case history. If you listen to or view my previous video, you will be able to know the actual basis on which this case history is present or based. It is about a bank van robbery in a spot called Minto Bridge in New Delhi that happened in 1974. It is, as mentioned before, a very true story. Anyway, here there are three career criminals called Vipin Jaggi, Ravi Kapoor, and Shawar Khan who plan a robbery in which today we will see how a fourth accomplice is introduced by one of those criminals, Vipin Jaggi, to the other two, that is Ravi Kapoor and Shawar Khan. They were all sitting one evening in a hotel when suddenly one side door opened and a wild but handsome looking very young boy entered and smiled broadly at Vipin Jaggi. Shawar Khan, who was a cold, calculated, professional criminal, felt his heart skip a beat. He wondered who this guy was. He looked too fresh, too young, too handsome, and probably too impetuous. This guy introduced himself as a guy called Sunil Batra. This young man was a college student, an educated guy, and the only son of a retired major. He was quite well off and he belonged to the upper middle class or wealthy class in the social strata, unlike Shawar Khan or Ravi Kapoor. It was only the third guy, Vipin Jaggi, who was a link between Sunil Batra and the other two, that is Ravi Kapoor and Shawar Khan. Shawar Khan's criminal instincts told him that this Sunil Batra seemed to be bad news. This guy was too overconfident and brash. Shawar Khan, despite Sunil's very good looks, did not trust this boy and he actually did not like what he saw. But being an outsider and from a city in another state, he kept quiet only because he himself was introduced to Vipin Jaggi in the first place by his another accomplice, Ravi Kapoor. Anyway, after a lot of brainstorming, these four decided to rob that van one Saturday a fortnight later. For that, they had to do some pre production exercises also. They needed a vehicle to transport them to the place of robbery, that is Minto Bridge. This vehicle was no problem. Expert car thieves Ravi Kapoor and Shawar Khan took the responsibility to steal just one vehicle for this purpose. Vipin Jaggi helped. He told them that he had an uncle who owned a coffee brown color Fiat car and he was a businessman who was operating somewhere in Delhi. These guys one night went, picked up that car with gusto and drove it to their present hideout. Thus, the vehicle was arranged for their transportation. After this, these guys did some recce of the bank van and the branch office of that bank. On that particular fortnight, Saturday, which was the D day or fateful day, the same van loaded with boxes of cash started its regular journey from the bank to the Reserve Bank of India. These guys were lying in wait. This van, as usual, without any hiccup, approached the same Minto Bridge at around the same time. Immediately, these four guys went in their own stolen coffee colored Fiat and stopped that van through a road blockade. This van braked, the driver Ramji stopped the vehicle. Immediately, two guys went sword or knife in hand and confronted the driver Ramji and asked him to keep quiet, while the other two ran to the back of that van. They went there to confront that security guard. These two robbers were waiting for something to happen from the backside when, to their horror, a moment later they heard a gunshot. These guys thought that the guard had fired his own rifle or pistol to scare off these robbers. But instead, a moment later, these two also came running to the front to confront Ramji, that driver. This Shahwar Khan, the guy who was so careful and a career criminal, almost felt his own heart leap to his mouth. That wild, handsome, young looking fellow called Sunil Batra was waving his revolver and shouting, "I shot the guard dead." Shawar Khan did not know what to do. He was a criminal, a thief, and a robber, all right, but he was never a violent person. He had always committed his job through his own intelligence, planning, and skill. Even his other accomplice, Ravi Kapoor, was baffled. It is said in spiritualism and in the ordinary English language, you are judged by the company you keep. These two otherwise career criminals and their friend Vipin Jaggi had a person like Sunil Batra as their new company, and hence it was no good news. Even before Shawar Khan could do something, Sunil Batra pointed his revolver at the driver and said, "Let us go. Please drive us to one lonely spot." The driver Ramji had no other go. Two of the robbers went to the car while the other two climbed into the front side of the same van where they flanked Ramji, or they sat on one side. Ramji obediently drove the car to a lonely spot. Sorry, the van to a lonely spot. As soon as they all landed there, Sunil Batra, the wild looking young boy, showed what he could do. Like a baby which has done it again, Sunil Batra pointed his gun at Ramji and squeezed the trigger. There was another gunshot, and the bullet pierced the body of Ramji. Ramji fell unconscious immediately. Shawar Khan, that robber from Bhopal, started dancing with grief, anger, distraught attitude, and helplessness. Anyway, these guys unloaded those boxes of cash and vanished inside the hideout, and from there they went separate ways or together they went to some unknown place. They had successfully robbed that van. Sometime later, the cops arrived. They saw that the security guard was dead and Ramji was in an unconscious state but still breathing. These guys took both to the hospital where the guard's body was taken to the morgue while Ramji was taken to the ICU. The frothing in anger Delhi cops lay in wait for Ramji to come to his consciousness. It was midnight when Ramji slightly recovered, but the doctors told the police that he was in a critical condition. Nevertheless, at the acceptance of the dying Ramji, the cops went to him to register a dying declaration. This guy said, I am a driver of that van. When we were driving, we were presented with, or we had to face a roadblock by a coffee brown colored Fiat car. Two guys came towards me while the other two ran to the backside of that van. Suddenly we all heard a gunshot and one driver, or the one security guard who was at the back of the van was shot. The other two ran towards us. They ordered me to drive that van to a lonely spot. When I did that, this one wild looking guy again pointed that gun at me and shot me. As soon as this happened, one of the other three robbers, who was quite angry and alarmed, shouted in Hindi, "Arey Khan, ye kya kiya?" Means, "O Khan, what have you done?" Khan is a title used by men of a particular community. However, in this case, the way this man vocally pronounced that word Khan was quite different from how it is usually pronounced. This man's vocal cords vibrated in such a way that the word Khan came as Han, H-A-A-N, not Khan, which is the actual spelling of that word. When you say Han, it is a type of pronunciation which is generally used by guys of one locality in one city called Bhopal in the state of Madhya Pradesh. It is a way of addressing anyone whether or not that guy belongs to that community. It is just like saying, "Hello guy, how are you?" or "Hello friend, how are you?" In the same way, they usually address other people as, "Hello Han, how are you? I know this because I was born and brought up in that locality. I could recognize that dialect, and so I am certain that one of those robbers who used that expression belonged to that locality in the city of Bhopal, the capital of the state of Madhya Pradesh in India. This was a very important tip off. Here again, we have to remember one proverb: Nemesis strikes even the most wary transgressor. And the other proverb that whenever a robber or a criminal commits a job, he, howsoever brilliant he or she may be, commits at least 25 small mistakes. If this criminal, after the job is done, is able to remember even half of those mistakes, then this criminal, whether he or she, can safely say that he or she is a genius. Shawar Khan had committed just such a mistake. He probably never knew that this driver will not only die because of the gunshot, but he will be hailing from the same locality to which Shawar Khan belonged in Bhopal. The police moved fast. Ramji was already dead. It meant that Sunil Batra had committed two murders that evening, one of the security guard and the other of the driver of the Union Bank of India van. There was one more mistake which we will talk about later. Anyway, the police immediately contacted the Bhopal police and asked them to search for some criminal who was missing from that locality which Ramji mentioned. Within hours, the police in Bhopal, through its informers, came to know about the identity of one guy called Shawar Khan, who was a highway robber and a car thief, and who had not been seen in that locality for a couple of months. From Shawar Khan, they traced Ravi Kapoor in Jabalpur. From Ravi Kapoor, they traced Vipin Jaggi in Delhi. Meanwhile, Vipin Jaggi's uncle told the police that he had already lodged a complaint in a local police station that his own Fiat car was missing. This Fiat car lay abandoned in one locality in New Delhi from where these four had escaped. But the identity of Sunil Batra was still not available to the police of either Delhi or Bhopal. They did not know whether this boy hailed from Madhya Pradesh or from Delhi. And now we will talk about another inadvertent mistake that these four ignorant criminals had done. Every week, the cash that was taken from the branch of a local nationalized bank to Reserve Bank of India was of soiled notes, that is, notes which had to be recycled to be brought to the market later on. Every branch used to transport such soiled notes every Saturday to the Reserve Bank of India. And because it was so, these notes, every one of them, was properly documented and noted down in some document for future reference. This means that this meant that every piece of note in that hall had been dutifully recorded by the Union Bank of India. It provided the list to the police, who immediately informed various police stations all around the country to tell them that they should be careful while handling any such note with any serial number that has been documented, because it is a soiled note. By the time the police had informed every police station, the radio and the TV went full blast and informed this to the public also, for the convenience of catching these culprits. These culprits also came to know about this immediately through TV or radio. Now they did not know what to do. As far as they were concerned, they had to dispose of these noted or documented pieces of currency as fast as possible. And for that, these guys began squandering these currency notes in various purchases, clubs, bars, hotels, etc. The trail was caught up by the Delhi police immediately. It followed these four guys to Jabalpur. Jabalpur is the hometown of one of the robbers called Ravi Kapoor. Here too, they hailed an auto rickshaw from the railway station or airport and went to a hotel. They before going to the hotel, they asked this auto guy what the bill was. The amount came to around 10 rupees only, but one of them gave this guy 100 rupees soiled note and said, "Keep the change." This auto driver, who was an honest, upright citizen of the country, immediately informed the local police. Meanwhile, the hotel manager of that particular hotel also dutifully informed the police that these guys were paying their own reservation bills in cash, and that too it looked that they were squandering away their own wealth. He said they were four in number. The police already knew that the robbers of the Union Bank of India van were four in number. Immediately, the complete police force of Jabalpur surrounded that hotel and went and barged into that room. These four, completely oblivious of what stupidity they had already done, were singing and dancing when they were caught with their pants down. In the Sessions Court, Shawar Khan became a government approver, police approver. He went to the podium or the witness stand and disclosed the complete plan and told the judge and the horrified public that he and his friend Ravi Kapoor were just ordinary criminals who never ever resorted to violence. The police record of the two authenticated this statement. Then these two said that this guy who had shot the two security guard and driver of the van was introduced to them by the third accomplice, Vipin Jaggi. The court accepted this statement and sentenced both Shawar Khan and Ravi Kapoor only to 7 to 10 years in prison. Both Vipin Jaggi and Ravi and Sunil Batra were taken to Delhi, where Vipin Jaggi got a life sentence and Sunil Batra, the murderer, the youngest among the four, was only 24 years old when he had committed that crime, was sentenced to death. Immediately, his father, the distraught and retired major, threw his hands in the air, threw up his hands in the air, and then said goodbye to his own family and went and settled down in Auroville in Pondicherry in South India, Auroville being a spiritual place and the headquarters of Sri Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, who is internationally famous. The sister and mother of Sunil Batra tried to hire lawyers to save this guy from death sentence, but his death sentence was confirmed by the Session Court, the High Court of Bhopal, the High Court of Delhi, the Supreme Court, and now his application for reprieve went to the President of India. The President of India at that time was a South Indian who hardly knew any Hindi. This is how miracles happened. When this old lady went to him and begged for the life of her own son, this man could not understand what she said and he burst into tears. He accepted this pleading and pardoned Sunil Batra from the hangman's noose. Sunil Batra, after 12 years or so in the death row, escaped the final sentence of hanging. He was returned to where Vipin Jaggi was already languishing in the life sentence department of that jail. Later on, these four went about their own ways after they were released. This case history tells us in detail the psyche of various guys who were basically negative, criminal minded, and demonic, but even among them, one was totally murderous while the others were only ordinary robbers or thieves. Whipping Jaggi had no character. He was game to having his own uncle's car robbed by the other robbers to be used in this robbery. Thus, he put his own uncle's life, career, and reputation in jeopardy. That shows the psyche of Vipin Jaggi. Sunil Batra was criminally insane, so we need not say much about him. It is a fact that it is indeed a miracle that this guy escaped the hangman's noose. The other two separated from these two guys and after completing their sentence began living their own ordinary life in their own locality and township, or they went to some other city or town in India or abroad. This is the case history that I wanted to talk to you to analyze human psyche and the psyche of every human living entity. It gives us a very good insight into the human brain and how it works according to the vibrations from the subtle bodies being etheric senses, astral mind, and causal intelligence. This is all I wanted to say in this particular video. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this case history. Please give me your own expert opinions, thoughts, ideas, and views so that I may blend everything together for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan